Two returning Filipinos from South Africa have yet to be tracked by the government amid the threat of the Omicron variant. Experts agree that the Philippines is in a much better position as far as the pandemic is concerned, but a downgrade to Alert Level 1 is still not recommended. Now, petitioners expressed disappointment after the Supreme Court upheld the constitutionality of most of the provisions of the Anti-Terror Law. Now, speaking of which, the Office of the Solicitor General flagged supposed offensive tirades made by petitioners of the case against the Anti-Terror Law. And NLEX survives an overtime thriller against Northport at the PBA Governor's Cup. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know to jumpstart your weekend. I'm Riza Diaz. Two more returning overseas Filipinos are missing among the 8 that returned from South Africa last November. Meanwhile, the health department urges the public to receive booster shots in a bid to fight off the Omicron variant when it enters the country. Jen Kalimon has the report.
Out of the tagged 8 unlocated travelers from South Africa who entered the country, an additional 5 have been tracked, leaving 2 more missing.
2 other individuals na hindi pa rin po natin nakikita, we had been coordinating with the specific local governments, no, para po makita na natin sila. Wala pa ho tayo nakikitang rason para ipag-alam sa public yung kanilang mga pangalan because we still would want to preserve the rights of these individuals.
Officials said the 2 have provided incomplete details, making it harder to trace them.
Kailangan i-verify pa rin natin what were the circumstances that led them to give us incorrect numbers or unreachable numbers or baka mamaya iba rin yung kanilang address. So kailangan imbestigahan pa rin, malaman natin para atin masiguro no, kung kailangan ba silang mapatawan ng violation at ng sanctions.
As for the 5 who have been traced, 2 are admitted at the Bureau of Quarantine pending swab test results. 2 already tested negative but are still under quarantine, while the 5th already tested negative and has been discharged from quarantine. 63 countries have reported cases of the Omicron variant, including Asian countries such as Singapore, Thailand, and Malaysia. Despite having no Omicron cases in the country, the health department is not letting its guard down, especially following reports that Omicron has a sister mutation and that it may be hard to detect during sequencing runs.
And unfortunately for this Omicron variant, meron po silang S-gene deletion. So dito sa RT-PCR, hindi mo makikita yung S-gene na yan. Hindi naman natin kailangan mangamba, no? Kasi unang-una, nadidetect pa rin ang positive samples, no? Wala lang tayong S-gene detections and kapag positive naman ang sample, sasagawa po natin ang whole genome sequencing kung saan kahit may deletion yan sa S-gene, madidetermine pa rin natin kung anong type of variant yan.
The Health Department advises prioritization of booster shots to curb a possible spread of the variant. Pfizer and BioNTech says a 3rd dose of its job can help neutralize Omicron. But the World Health Organization is cautioning richer countries from hoarding vaccines as this may cut supply for poorer countries. Reporting for News 5, Jen Kalimon, we are One News.
Now, one health expert says that the country is in a much better situation compared to a month ago pandemic-wise. In an interview with The Big Story, infectious disease expert Dr. Ronchin Solantes said that the current hospital utilization rate is far lower than expected, especially since the Delta variant is still present in the country and the threat of the Omicron is still looming.
We are in a better place and we are in a better situation now compared to 2 months or a month ago. If you look at the hospital utilization now, it's way far we would expect that it will happen even at this point in time.
But despite this, NTF advisor or special advisor Dr. Ted Herbosa said the country is not yet ready for a further ease in restrictions. Speaking to 1PH sa totoo lang, Herbosa said that according to Health Secretary Francisco Duque, Filipinos tend to be more complacent once restrictions are eased. Thus, for Herbosa, it's better to be vigilant and keep the current restrictions for now.
Nag-usap kami ni Secretary Duque, ang sabi nga niya nakakatakot kasi ang Filipinos, when you give them relaxation, they start to move out. So those are still risks. And then, of course, we're waiting for Omicron variant to enter. We are low risk, tama, but there are risks.
Now we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Petitioners against the Anti-Terror Law say the Supreme Court's decision was an affront to human rights in the Philippines. They are also now preparing their next step while the Supreme Court has yet to release the full decision on the controversial law. Marlene Alcaide with a story.
While the world celebrates International Human Rights Day, several petitioners against the anti-terror law couldn't be more displeased. The Supreme Court decided to junk only 2 parts of the highly contested measure.
Dissenting opinion at ito pong mga opinion na ito ay amin pong pag-aaralan at atin pong lalabanan dito sa ating motion for reconsideration.
Petitioners continue to argue on several provisions of the law that remain intact. These include the provisions on warrantless arrests, as well as the power of the Anti-Terrorism Council to designate individuals or organizations as terrorists. Attorney Evelyn Ursua called the SC's decision as a mere consolation, adding that it is scary and depressing due to the lack of protection.
Walang kwenta yon dahil may absolute power pa rin yung Anti-Terrorism Council na umaasta na korte.
Anti-terror law will continue to silence us. The right to freedom of expression is so important dahil yung karapatan natin magsalita, yun din yung karapatan natin na ilabas kung ano ang ating nasa isip, kung ano ang ating nararamdaman. Pero babaliwalain ito.
Petitioner and senatorial aspirant Nery Colmenares likewise said that too much power is given to the president under the law to target dissenters.
This decision will not be left unchallenged. Sana, despite the decision, ituloy natin ang pagtutol sa terrorism law. Ituloy natin ang paglabas ng ating hinaing na ang terrorism law labag sa karapatang pantao, labag sa ating mga constitutional rights.
Another petitioner, Attorney Mel Santa Maria, believes that the SCs may still change its decision.
Nag-speculate lang ngayon, ang sinasabi ng Korte Suprema, as of this time, wala pang tinamaan doon sa iba pang mga sinasabi niyong section na unconstitutional. Kaya sabi ng Korte Suprema, on the basis of the current petition.
Amid the uncertainty, oppositors say that presidential aspirants must be asked about their position on the controversial law, as its impact will be felt after the current administration.
Pwedeng gamitin rin ito ng iba pang mga rehimen, lalong-lalo na ngayon na nakaamba ang posibilidad that a dictator radical regime will happen after May 2022.
Petitioners are waiting for the publication of the SC's full decision on the law, but it is expected that they will file a motion for reconsideration. For News 5, Marlene Alcaide, we are One News.
For its part, the Office of the Solicitor General flags the offensive tirades of petitioners and their counsel against the Supreme Court following its decision on the anti-terror law. Solicitor General Jose Calida said that a lawyer should avoid scandalous or offensive language or behavior before the courts. They are also duty-bound to observe and maintain the respect for the courts of justice. Calida also notes that the Supreme Court directed parties and their counsels to refrain from discussing the case with the media. The SolGen emphasized that even in the midst of these issues that divide, there still should be respect for the High Court. Fast break now to the PBA. The NLEX Road Warriors scored a win against the Northport Batang Pier in overtime, moving 2-0 in the standings. NLEX import KJ McDaniels and guard Kevin Alas came through in overtime, beating Northport 120-115. Alas had 21 points, including 3 clutch free throws that paved the way for NLEX for the extra period. McDaniels, meanwhile, scored 11 of his 40 points in overtime as the Road Warriors handed the Batang Pier another loss. Meanwhile, the Alaska Aces also beat San Miguel Beermen, chalking up their second straight win, 99-94. Import Olu Ashalu led the Aces to their second win, managing to keep the Beermen at bay most of the game. Now, the Alaska Aces is now tied with first with NLEX. Now, for today, Phoenix Super LPG Fuel Masters will face Blackwater Bossing at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and the game between the Rain or Shine Alaska Painters and the Terra Firma Jeep will begin at 6:45 p.m. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later again at 9 in the morning as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.